Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the High Elves led by Teclis and Bretonnia, who's going to be led by King Louis. So in this match, rather than trying to win with our elite infantry and perhaps some monstrous units like dragons, we're actually going to be trying to contest the cav game with Bretonnia, which is definitely pretty risky as they do have some of the best cav in the game. So if you take a look at the army composition, we do have a very thin front line. In total, we have, I think, 2 groups of spearmen and then also some white lines in the middle. And white lines are one of those units that, a lot of people have been giving a lot of flack lately, but if there is a matchup for them, I think it's Bretonnia. Bretonnia obviously does have some low-tier troops, and the white lines can beat foot squires, and they can really smash on low-tier infantry like men-at-arms and battle pilgrims and things like that. So I think this might be one of the few matchups in which white lines might be decent. So we do have them here in the center of the formation. You obviously don't want them on the outside because they could be taking heavy charges from questing knights or grail knights or things like that. So you probably want to put your spearmen or anti-large troops on the outside of the formation. But kind of the main core of this strategy isn't the infantry, so let's go ahead and talk about the cav. So we have 2 groups of Dragon Princes. So the Dragon Princes on paper, one of the things that makes them so tanky is their physical resist. So they have 25% here on top of really good melee defense and melee attack and heavy armor. But against the Grail Knights, so if you look at Bretonnian Grail Knights, or those are Knight Errants, I think he has some back here. So Grail Knights. Grail Knights obviously don't have as good of a melee attack or melee defense or just damage, but they have an anti-large bonus, they have a really good charge bonus. But the fact that they do magic damage is so good because it circumvents the 25% physical resist against the Dragon Princes. And the Dragon Princes, in return, they don't have the anti-large bonus, and they also have to fight against the 20% physical resist of these Grail Knights. So typically, I'm pretty sure the Grail Knights win pretty, well, I don't know if it's like one-sided, but they will win that engagement versus Dragon Princes. And that then makes the matchup very tough for the High Elves because their cav are pretty decent with, Dragon Princes, and I guess Silver Helms are okay. But, that kind of forces you into having to use your infantry and just take the cycle charges from Bretonnia and maybe using Star Dragons. But I figured there might be a way to kind of help that situation. So Dragon Princes do fight a good fight against them, but they lose. But I think that these Frostheart Phoenixes might be one of the secret weapons here in this matchup. So if you look at the Frostheart Phoenix, they have this aura. So the aura is the Blizzard aura, and my apologies, there's a police helicopter outside. The Blizzard aura gives -9 melee attack, so it's going to put the melee attack of the Grail Knights down to, it looks like 29, which is going to be a huge difference. And on top of that, they do also subtract 10% of the armor piercing damage, which is going to be very good considering, how heavily armored the Dragon Princes are. And on top of that, the Frostheart Phoenixes also do magic damage themselves, which is going to pass the physical resist of the Grail Knights. So what I did is I have 2 groups of Grail Knights, or Dragon Princes. Each is going to be escorted by a Phoenix, and just to bring more anti-large to the table, I do have Teclis with Nets of Amnitok, Enfeebling Foe, which I will be using on his elite cav, and then I think I have Regrowth as well. So he's going to be accompanied by 2 Nobles, which when you put them on a horse, actually do have anti-large and AP. So against Bretonnia, it doesn't really take a whole lot to win against their infantry, and it's going to take their low-tier infantry like an eternity to get through the melee defense of your spears and other troops like that. So I really think that this might be the way to go. Granted, it does need some more battle testing here. In the back, I do have 1 group of Lothern Seaguard just to kind of keep my opponent's archers honest. So for his army, a very wide army, he does have Peasant Bowmen. He has a front line of men-at-arms with shields, Grail Reliquae, but he's very heavily invested in cav. So he has 2 Grail Knights, 2 Knight Errants to just cycle charge the front line, which I think is pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. So guys, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So right now I try and get an early pick. My opponent obviously not wanting to take that engagement. He sees the Noble, he sees Benedict Kimberbatch over here, he sees everyone kind of pressuring. So what he does is he pulls his knights back and he forms a bit of a spear wall, so you can see the spearmen are protecting right here, and I think he has another group in auxiliary, and in the meantime he is pulling all of his forces back. So the Lothern Seaguard are shooting into his archers in the back line here, and look at the damage they're doing. And honestly, he's probably not going to want to return fire, simply because the Lothern Seaguard do have silver shields. So we're getting some pretty good damage, and over the course of a couple volleys, those peasant archers will get melted. So right now I'm trying to bait a fight with my opponent. I do see King Lewin up in the air, and I kind of figured that the 2 Frostheart Phoenixes could probably overpower him. And most Bretonnian players don't run Pegasus Knights or Hippogriff Knights anymore, so I felt like it was pretty safe to go with the Angry Frost Pigeon. So we get in there, we get the Enfeebling Foe, which is going to put his stats down to 21 and 18 respectively for melee defense and melee attack. You can see the Phoenix is just getting in there and getting all dirty like. So we do charge in with these guys. It was a bit of a weird charge for both of us. These are actually Knight Errant, so it's not like going to be a great fight for them. And the Nobles and Teclis come in there, and then from there, he's following up with the Spears and his more elite cav, the Grail Knights, which I guess he was a little bit delayed there in the timing because these guys just took a beating for no reason, really. But the Grail Knights and other troops are going to follow up, and he is going to get the charge on me, whereas I'm not going to get the charge on the Grail Knights. So there is an argument to be made that it did pay off. In the back line, he does get a charge in with these Knight Errants on my Lothern Seaguard, and I actually used my other group of Dragon Princes to just charge the front line initially, and they did a ton of shock damage against the Men-at-Arms as well as his Damsel, so that was definitely good. So I then pulled them back to just chase down these Knight Errants in the back line. And the 2 Angry Frost Pigeons up in the air are actually screening out King Lewin, very efficiently, and I have tried this build out against a couple other Bretonnian players, and I was able to get a ton of value out of the Frostheart Phoenixes. I was able to get nets down on the Fey Enchantress and then snipe her out with the 2 Frostheart Phoenixes and the Nobles, so they definitely bring a lot to the table and can help the Dragon Princes actually be pretty strong in this matchup. So in the back, just to keep these Knight Errants from trolling me, I do get a net of Amnitok, and you can see Teclis is just going to ride in there and get a pretty good little slap with his Pimp Cane, and also the Dragon Prince is coming in and getting a charge from the side. So now that I've kind of secured my, I guess I didn't really need to, but my back line, we're just going to be in a very dragged out fight with these Grail Knights here. So the Lothran Sea Guard doing a ton of work. You can see they routed off one group of peasants, and now they're working on the second one. In the front line, it's a bit of an atrocious fight, but the men-at-arms will get through eventually. But these spearmen, I mean, you can tell they're just going to hold all freaking day. They still have their martial prowess, which is nice. In the center, the White Lions are doing very well. They've actually racked up a ton of kills. They're at 69. That's what she said. And you know, by the end of the fight, they could certainly be up over close to 200 most likely. So, and this is also why Teclis and the Noble Goon Squad is so powerful. I'm able to grab Teclis and my 2 Nobles, and I'm just like, okay, there's an isolated target here in the front line. It's his Damsel, so I just grabbed them both. I actually netted him originally, and from there I have really good speed. 78 speed, 78 on his Damsel, so we, pretty equal in the speed department. I just catch the Damsel and, kind of routed off the battlefield. And also the Fiery Convocation going down on Bretonnia. And King Lewin can't really get away from these guys. I mean, he could land on the ground, maybe attack the front line and then get some assistance. But these pigeons are fast and furious. They have 76 speed right now. They are poisoned. Lewin's at 74. I think their base speed is like 100, so they're about the same speed as Lewin. And they debuff his stats. His melee attack is lowered, so this is a great situation for me, getting these angry frost pigeons. In the back, we have a pretty pitched fight. You can see the Grail Knights were able to get on my Dragon Princes, and they are going to win this engagement. There's 37 of them. My opponent did a pretty good job following up with Spearmen, so I can't really assist from the back here. You can see Teclis is in a bit of a bad fight. I'll definitely have to pull him back, as my opponent is going to be switching some forces over here, so this was a little bit tough. Both my Dragon Princes were kind of pinned down, and if I wanted to retreat, the Grail Knights were simply going to chase, and that would take me even further away from reinforcements. So at this point, I decided to just stay and fight. But this is going very well for me up in the air. You can see that the angry Frost Pigeons are just going after Lewin and doing a ton of damage. He is enduring pretty well. The Damsel was able to heal him a couple of times, but still, this is definitely an advantage for me up in the air. So I do get one of my Nobles, and I decided to send him after the Damsel. I just wanted to finish the Damsel off, get rid of the healing, so I could clinch this situation with Louis. Balance of power is pretty even, but my Dragon Princes are losing, so they're starting to get a little bit beat up, because obviously, instead of helping them with the Phoenixes like I had planned, or I was doing earlier in the fight, I'm like, I just need to kill King Lewin. If I kill Lewin, I can probably terror out and just win through the Phoenixes. So right now, we're just chasing him down. The poison arrows from the peasants actually being pretty useful in this matchup. Like, normally, I wouldn't recommend bringing peasant arrows against, the High Elves, because, again, their archers can wreck you. There's not a ton of good targets. But against the Frost Pigeons, who, don't have the most armor, I guess 80 is pretty good, but, poisoning them and kind of whittling them down has been pretty good. But the one group of Lothran Sea Guard, definitely MVP. So you can see they're going to be holding here. They are being attacked by some knights, but they do have anti-large and, pretty durable melee defense, so they're going to be able to hold and fight these guys off. In the back, I tried to do a bit of a tactical retreat to see if I could pull back and then, countercharge my opponent, but the Dragon Princes also are able to get a decent little concave here. So when I did retreat, and that's something that has worked for me in the past, where you retreat and sometimes the enemy AI will just push forward a little bit, and some of them, they'll have 7 or 8 attacking one of your models here, so you can then get a more optimal concave. So we do get a good engagement here, but the Bretonnia Knights are swarming my back line, and you can see that the Dragon Princes are going to falter to the glory of Bretonnia. But in the meantime, King Lewin is chased off the battlefield by the other Frostheart Phoenix. I am able to get a net down on the Damsel, and Teclis is just such a good lord. And we're able to pin this Damsel down. You can see Teclis is coming in with the Noble, and this Damsel is not long for this earth. So the Frostheart Phoenix, pretty good combat stats. Not the highest melee attack, but very good melee defense, so they're hard to burn down, and this Damsel is probably just going to get Monster Mash. Teclis, not the best combatant, but the Phoenix hits hard. The Noble is very good versus large targets. Oh, she just got decapitated by that pigeon. That was brutal. Oh man, that was like a Mortal Kombat KO. Anyways, the Pigeon's able to do some pretty good work, and from there we secure a pretty handy lead in the balance of power, having taken out having taken out Lewin, as well as decapitating that Damsel over there. And from here we just kind of swarm in with the Phoenixes, and what's also great about these guys is they cause fear and terror. Granted, my opponent does have a Grail Reliquary here, so we're not going to be able to terror out these guys, because it does give the immunity to psychology, but from here we should be able to clean up. So you can see the Pigeons are going to be flying back in, just looking for the high-value targets. I'm trying to snipe out some of the Knights, because they're pretty much the only, powerful unit left fighting. And like I said, the White Lions, 164 kills against low-tier infantry, and they do beat Foot Squires 1-1, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to do some more battle testing, but I think they do when I first tested it out, but that was a couple months ago. Don't know if there's any balance changes, but yeah, they're doing a pretty good job. So right now you can see Teclis and the boys are just in here, finishing off the Grail Knights. I think the Grail Reliquary is... yeah, it's still in there somewhere, but it looks like my opponent is indeed going to get smacked with army losses. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that build. I do need to test it out more, so I don't know if it's like, going to be a great well-rounded build versus a multitude of different Bretonnian players of different skill levels. But I think it's a start. I think the Frostheart Phoenixes do have a pretty good niche. With high armor, the Bretonnian archers won't do much, and if you're keeping them with other troops, so Dragon Princes are fighting the Grail Knights. They already have a stat advantage with 48-48 with Martial Mastery. You then bring in this guy, and that gives you an even bigger differential, plus magic damage, plus minus AP on those guys, which is going to add up, like all those micro-level debuffs. I think the Frostheart Phoenixes definitely have a bit of a niche. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the build for my opponent's build. I would still recommend bringing a couple Foot Squires. Honestly, like 3 or 4 in the front line would have won that front line engagement for him, which would have then put me in a harder situation. He was obviously relying more on the Cav and different things like that, but the Frost Pigeons, and also King Lewin. I mean, had Lewin been a little bit more involved in maybe, trying to goon Techless or helping out in the Cav fight, it could have been a very different game. But the fact that the Phoenixes were able to bully him was, one of the biggest factors as to why it went well. So very well played, my opponent, Average Adam. Look forward to running into again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing Doctor Strange in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.